Hey guys, welcome back to Forbidden Depths. Today we're going to be featuring an amazing human being. She is an inspiration, a true inspiration to so many. She started out in the BDSM community, then she went into the porn industry. She has been nothing but an inspiration. She's one of the kindest souls you'll ever meet. And we're super fortunate to hear her side on Forbidden Depths today. I want to say, if you don't already support her, go on over to Twitter and make sure you at least give her a follow, retweet some of her stuff. Just she's one of the good ones, and we need more support for the good ones. The ones that want to help other people in the industry, the ones that are just so super nice. They give you guidance, and in the adult industry, you're going to find good, bad, you're going to find pros and cons. Overall, in order to make the industry itself better, we need to support each other. We need to be more involved. And I feel like she's one of those people. She sets a good, positive example. She's helped other people. She's even helped models in a model house. Like, 100% amazing person. Sophia Locke is ultimately the one we need more of in the adult industry. So hop on over to Twitter, give her a follow, underscore Sophia Locke. That's LOCKE underscore. I also am going to link her after the video and in the bio. So make sure you go follow because she is super amazing. If nothing else, just give your moral support and help her name get out there more because she deserves it. Like I said, she's one of the good ones. I'll see you guys very soon, and let's go ahead and get this started, shall we?
That's so cool. It
Okay.
tells you too. I love that.
I know, it reminds you. It's like, hey, you're being recorded. Like, it's
Careful
like
what you
the,
say.
yeah, like the Snapchat feature.
Oh yeah, when you
Okay.
take a screenshot. Oh God.
Yeah, it warns people. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
sometimes that's a good thing because, I mean, you know, you want to know if
You do want to
somebody's
know.
like taking from whatever you're sending them. Okay,
Exactly.
so first, I want to say thank you so much for being here today. And if you could kindly introduce your amazing self to everyone on the podcast.
Sure. I'm Sophia Locke, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming. Guys, I'm gonna tell you she's super amazing. Make sure you follow her on Twitter or any of her other platforms, but I suggest Twitter. Just throwing that out there. Um, all right, Sophia, the first question that I have for you today is what do you consider yourself? What do you consider yourself as in your profession?
I consider myself like my gosh. I guess when people ask me what I do, I say I
Hmm.
do adult film.
Hmm.
Like professional adult film. So I would say that I'm also, I guess, a content creator. I don't, I don't know
Hmm.
if,
That
but I
counts.
do.
That counts.
I work in the adult industry in
Hmm.
many facets.
Very nice, very nice. I happen to love your work, which is one reason why I was really excited to ask you to be on.
Oh,
So
yay!
I'm super
Thanks.
excited.
Yay.
Next, with the industry itself, is it something that's kind of easy to get into? Was it easy for you to break into it? Was it kind of a struggle? Did you have to like work really hard to get where you are? And in the amount of effort, like, my biggest question is, how is it different than a 9 to 5 job?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would say it was not difficult to get into. And I
Mhm.
think for a lot of women especially, like, it's not necessarily that difficult. I've heard of recruiters using agent recruiters using Instagram and just finding like
Oh
hot
yeah,
girls and being like, hey, do you want to like shoot some adult content, some porn?
right.
So in that, the barrier to entry is pretty low, but I would
Mm.
say that based on a lot of factors like luck, timing, how saturated the market is,
Oh yes,
personality, what is hot right now. Like if you're in a time where it's like MILF stuff is hot, then great, you've got a lot of work. But if that
right.
isn't, then you might have some trouble. I got into it about 12 years ago and I had started with camming. So
Okay.
when I got in, I just signed up to a website and they were happy to have me.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted as many people as possible. And so I started from there, and it was so different from a 9 to 5. I was working in like a luxury hotel in Beverly Hills. I was front desk
Mm-hmm.
there. And so I was doing this kind of quietly on the side, and
Right.
pretty quickly was making more money than I did at my very high
Right.
stress 5-star hotel, don't fuck up job.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So, yeah, I will say that you do have to just have that hustle and that
Mm-hmm.
creativity, as I'm sure you know, of like
Oh yes.
creating new content or new shows or things that people would want to pay for in a market that has a lot of people in it. So you do have to
Saturation.
stand out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the time, it wasn't as saturated. So it was
Right.
easier then, I think. People weren't really doing games or raffles. And so everything you did
Mm-hmm.
was brand new and exciting.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. 100%. Like, I think about that all the time. Like years ago, whenever I started, it's like there wasn't that many people that were openly like
Right.
super open about it because one, I mean, society really doesn't accept anybody as a whole when it comes to like the southern part of the United States. They
Oh,
kind of view
definitely.
it as hide your sex interests and kind of things. So it's like they try to push it all in the closet and people can't really be open. So, with the saturation, I feel like people with COVID more going online, more
Mhm.
people wanted to be in sex work. They thought it was like a fail safe kind of thing. Did you see
Yeah.
more of that?
So that was when I was actually out of the industry. I had retired. I thought I was done 5 years
Hmm.
ago. And so when COVID hit, what was exciting about that from the outside, from kind of the vanilla world, is that suddenly I started hearing about people being in sex work. And that hadn't been a
Yeah.
thing before. You're right, it was
Okay.
hidden. And so suddenly I knew of people who had an OnlyFans, and people were
Hmm.
talking about it like it was, you know, not normal necessarily, but a little bit more
More
accepted. And
accepted.
that,
Right.
so on one hand, yes, it's frustrating to compete with everybody that's there, but on the other hand, and kind of bigger picture, I love that more people means that less stigma, right?
Yes. Yes. That was what I was gonna say. Like, if people would just that's one of the reasons I started the channel to begin with, is because I want
Yeah,
to create a safe environment for people to come to and be like, it's okay to embrace what I love. It's okay to embrace the things that I want and not feel bad for it.
yeah.
And these other people are doing it so they don't feel like alone.
I love
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't have someone that they could talk to. Kind of like before when there was less information available, less awareness. But I'm trying to shed the light on it, let everyone know this isn't this big, crazy, scary place where you're gonna die, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's one of my biggest things. I want to help people, educate people about the industry and give them background on you because you're super amazing to begin with. Um, so that actually brings me to my next question. What originally got you into the field in the first place? I know you're kind of trying to get away from the 9 to 5, but what inspired you?
Well, I mean, I was relatively happy with my job. I had worked in hospitality for years. This was like a great opportunity at a well-known hotel. I was
Hmm.
fine in that career trajectory. Um, but my partner at the time had been laid off
Okay.
in his profession, and I was in a BDSM relationship with him. So
Hmm.
it just kind of fell into place that there was this
Okay.
opportunity to express my BDSM interest and maybe make some money off of it. And as a partnership, the money would have helped too. So
Right.
it was just kind of the perfect timing.
Right. That's an amazing start. Like,
Yeah.
um, it's like you had kind of like a source that you could, I guess, help build a foundation for you to get into the industry. And I know like not everybody has that, but it's amazing when they do. Like whenever you have a mentor or a partner to work with, so you're more comfortable and
Yeah,
confident. Um,
definitely.
okay, so whenever it comes to you getting started with the adult industry, um, do you feel like there has to be certain strengths or qualities that you need in order to be successful?
Um, it's funny. I'm going to relate this to like specifically professional, like
Hmm.
adult film.
Right.
And because
Mhm.
it's fascinating to me how much people can get away with without actually being professional and still get hired. But I will say that it will
Yeah.
get you farther. It will get you farther um, if you are, you show up on time, you show up sober, you don't cancel, that you are professional on set, that you treat everyone professionally. I feel like
Right.
those are things that will help you um, have more longevity in your career. But a lot
Hmm.
of people, a lot of women specifically, get in kind of young. It's just this exciting kind of flash in the pan thing that they
Right.
get to do, which is also totally fine. But a
Right.
lot of people, from what I've heard, get in and then they're out in 6 months, and it's just kind of a
Mm.
party, sort of like, this is fun. I'm going to make some quick money, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. But if you want to kind of stay longer and get hired
And
more
be
by the
relevant.
same
Right.
directors again and again, I think it's really important to treat it like a job.
Right.
And that's why I'm glad I started in the industry at all at 25, because I had
Hmm.
had 9 to 5 jobs. I knew how much money this was and how
Right.
grateful I was to be making a certain amount per day that was way more than my, I think at the time, $16 an hour, you know?
Right.
Um, so I really appreciated that, and I never canceled on anyone. And I also understood that people put a lot of work into it behind the scenes, the
Oh,
production,
yes.
the crew, people rent out locations. And then when someone just doesn't show up and says, well, I'm hungover, so I don't feel like it, it's a tick mark against you, but you will
Yeah.
still get hired a bunch. I've learned, even if you do that, apparently.
Yeah.
But I think if you want to stay a little bit longer, it's probably
Right.
good to have
Right.
those have
Right.
those strengths of taking it as
And if you
seriously as
want
you
that,
can.
like, I guess, positive rapport almost. So, because word of
Yeah.
mouth does a lot. Like,
It's tiny. The community is so small. If you do one thing on one set, it spreads like wildfire to agents,
hmm.
directors. I have heard the craziest stories, and
Yeah.
I was never anywhere near a set, and I'm hearing them. So
Yeah.
I saw something recently that I thought was great advice, completely out of the industry. I can't remember who said it, but they said um, that what they did throughout their career was they were the nicest and hardest working person in the room, always.
Hmm.
And I loved that as just
Yes.
this kind of central idea that you can come back to each time without sacrificing your boundaries or anything like that.
Right.
But
Right.
I think it's good advice.
Yes. I would have to completely agree.
Hmm.
Okay, so next, let's look at we've been talking about some positives that kind of why you got in, and the of course we're always going to be about the positive, getting paid. Everybody likes to get paid, even if it's
Sure.
something you love. You like to get paid.
Yeah, I wouldn't do
So
it for free. I'll tell you that.
right,
I love it.
100%.
Still a job. Yep. Yep. You
Okay,
get
so
it.
um let's talk about potential negatives. So has there ever been any, like, dangerous or risky things, risky environments, or whether it be your mental health or your physical health, that you've had on any set or with anyone in the industry in particular? Like, were there negative emotions involved, and kind of how did you deal with it?
That's a great question. I will say, just to kind of start things off, because this is a really common question online. I've never felt any shame around my
Right.
job, whether it was camming or being on set or sex work in general. I
Right.
have never left a set and felt, I shouldn't have done that or felt guilty. And I think that's just having a not super religious upbringing or something like that.
Right.
So nothing around those kind of fields. I feel like I've been really lucky with the sets that I've been on. They've all been really professional. I do
Hmm.
think that some of it has to do with my age and my confidence, because I have
Right.
heard stories of, younger girls who maybe aren't as confident or maybe not as strong in their boundaries being pushed certain ways to maybe do
Hmm.
things that they're not happy doing. So that's
Right.
why it's so important to have model references. It's so important, to have somebody looking out for you, whether it's an agent that you trust that can verify that you're going to these places where it's legitimate people shooting you,
Right.
you know. Um, I can't think of anything really specific. I've definitely been like a little bit annoyed at some things, but
Hmm.
also I was annoyed in the civilian world at jobs, you know, and you don't get to
Right.
choose your coworkers typically, right? So you just find
Right.
out who you're working with the day before.
Right.
And so, but I think what I've heard is that after Me Too, a lot of that kind of riffraff was cleaned out.
Okay,
So,
good.
and that's when I started really like upping the shooting, was
Yes.
after that all happened. So the directors got kicked out of the industry, the ones that were saying, sure, I'll put you in a feature, but you have to sleep with me first. Like those
Yeah,
kind
oh
of
my goodness.
things. Um, so it definitely it's so professional in some sets that it borders on, are you even like into this?
Right.
You know, where
Right.
people are being so careful to not
Right.
cross any boundaries, and they're checking in with you 20 times during the
Mm-hmm.
day to make sure that it's all okay with you. And that's for liability
Right.
reasons. Hopefully it's also for caring reasons, but
Right.
these are
Mental
giant
check.
companies. Oh my gosh, it's almost over the top, but I prefer that over,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
getting
As
taken
opposed
advantage
to
of.
neglect.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Or, you know, and they don't want someone to leave set and because they were there saying it's fine, but actually felt uncomfortable and then go on to social media later and
Right.
blast the company, blast the talent, things like that. So there are a lot of fail safes with paperwork,
Hmm.
with check-ins, with like female liaisons on set. Those kind of
Hmm.
things are in place.
Awesome. And I love hearing that. I love I love hearing that. Like for me, communication is big, and of course, making sure you're checking with people's boundaries is huge. And I notice a lot of
Yeah.
people don't do that. So I'm really glad that you've had that experience.
Yeah.
So my next question, I know that you got out of sex work for a while and then you kind of jumped back in. How long were you in it before, and how long have you been in it now?
So I was in for 7 years, and most of that was with camming. And then
Hmm.
the last year and a half of it was also doing like work for like kink.com was my favorite. And so I did a bunch of
Hmm.
work for them. And then I was out for almost 5 years. And then I've been back in for since August of 2021. So a little bit over a year now.
Very nice, very nice. Now, your experience before and your experience now, how do they compare?
Well, I'm a lot more confident now, which is so
Hmm.
funny because I'm so much older. And you would think that so I'm 37 now. And when I was in it before, I like when I was camping, I had gained a lot of weight and then lost it
Hmm.
on camp. Like all of these different things happened with my body and with
Right.
um I think just getting older and feeling more secure in myself this
Oh,
time
yes.
around. And also I got boobs, so that helped. But I came back in and I felt fucking great about myself. And
Uh-huh.
I was thrown into these more dominant roles, which I had never done before and would have never been comfortable doing before because at my
Right.
core I'm submissive, you know.
Right.
But I got thrown into these dominant roles and I was ready this time, which was so nice. I
Yes.
feel like I am so grateful to have a second chance and to have another opportunity at this because I didn't know if anyone would remember me
Right.
or if anyone would want what I was selling, you know, especially
Right.
being older. But I feel really embraced by the community, by my old cam community. Like,
Hmm.
and I got a lot of messages to kind of call back what you were saying before about how when I was webcamming and had built that community, a lot of them felt really safe to share what they were into, to explore fetishes. And I loved
Hmm.
being that person that gave them that opportunity, or at least that
Right.
safe space to be able to do that. So um, it's just better this time around. I just
Yeah.
sky is the limit kind of. So it's fucking thrilling. And I have friends who have been doing it the entire time and some of
Hmm.
them are burnt out. And
Oh,
I'm coming
yes.
in like this fresh horny puppy like
Right.
sex work is so great and they're like that's sweet. Like that's cute of you. So I think that renewed energy and that renewed appreciation for the entire industry and for the community of it is what
Hmm.
has made this better.
Yes. Well, like I said before, huge, huge fan. I have not seen you in any dominant roles, so I need to get on that because I would love to see this. Me being who I am, I would love to see this.
Yeah. Well, that's the role you usually embody, right? Is that your typical?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. So I always appreciate I appreciate all roles 100%, but there's
sure.
something about whenever someone is being dominant and I'm like, fuck yeah. Like like
Take
you
your
go.
power.
Yes. I get so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. I will say it's not necessarily like BDSM dominant. It's more mommy dommy that I've
Oh
been doing.
yeah.
Like
Oh yeah. That's
I
the
yeah.
same.
I love it.
Yeah.
I just keep
Yeah.
getting these like 21-year-olds in trouble, like in my scenes.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun where I'm just like, you
Yeah.
dropped out of college. I'm so disappointed in you.
Right.
And then you
Right.
get a spanking and all of that. It's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yes. Amazing. Amazing. All right. So next, well, my next question was, do you enjoy your work? Clearly, that's what we've been talking about.
I fucking love it. Yeah. I mean, and there are days that feel more like a job than others. Especially
Mhm.
when it comes to filming. Um,
Right.
like OnlyFans is one thing, right? It's like you're doing content, it's just yourself. That
Right.
doesn't really necessarily feel that difficult. But there
Right.
are, when you're on set and there's so many things you have to think about, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
like you're doing this position for 8 minutes and the entire thing is a quad workout, of this
Right.
position. So there's stuff like that where you go, that feels like a job
Yeah.
right now. Because you're thinking about the lighting, you're thinking about the director who's like, behind the camera being like, more dialogue, more, like
Mm-hmm.
there's so many things you have to think about. But I get a thrill out of creating a really good product that hopefully
Mm-hmm.
tons of people will masturbate to. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
I genuinely have pride in that, and so
Oh,
that's why
yes.
it's the best job I've ever had, like, by
Yeah.
far.
And you should take pride in it. I mean,
I think
not
so.
everybody can do that. You know that? Not
Yeah.
everybody can do that.
Which I
So,
appreciate. I think a lot of people do think that it is, pretty easy. But
yeah.
I feel like you do need to have some sort of performer aspect to you. Same
Yes.
with camming, same with any of that kind of stuff. You have to really enjoy putting yourself out there and kind of being on stage, as it were.
Mm-hmm. It's it's one of those things, like, if you're not standing out and you're not putting forth effort, it's going to be like a dead fish kind of situation. And who
Yeah.
really wants to watch a dead fish? I
I
know
mean,
I
that's
do.
hard too, though. One of my negative Pornhub comments was saying like, "Oh, I understand why she liked to be tied up in ones before because she's not moving at all in this one." And I was like, "Ouch, ouch, okay." But it's so difficult to move when you need to be in like the
In
certain
an angle to
position. Yeah, so there are times where I'm like, "I wish I could do more. I'm trying, I promise."
right. No, I'm talking about the no breathing, no anything, just kind of like,
Starfish.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
you probably wouldn't last very long in that for sure.
Yeah. But as long as you put forth effort, I think you'll
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, let's talk about your support system. So do you have a good support system that supports you in your work, whether that be family, friends? Do you just have someone that's there for you that you can kind of talk to about work and things like that?
Definitely. I have a couple of really close friends that are in the industry, and that, of course,
Mhm.
is like the easiest way to vent or to,
Right.
have somebody really understand like what you're going through. So I definitely have that. I have some really close girlfriends that are outside of the industry who are wonderful and they don't judge. A couple of them even will go to bat for sex workers when someone in their lives
Nice.
says something nasty about OnlyFans or whatever, and they'll say, "Actually, my friend." So we've
Right.
we've got warriors out there for us, which is really nice. I love that. Um, and then when it comes to family, my dad is pretty supportive, which was surprising. I think I ruined adult work for him. He doesn't watch anything anymore, he told me, and
Mhm.
I was like, "That's fair. I'm so sorry." But he,
Right.
yeah, sorry. But he was very sweet and supportive when I got back in the industry. I think he was
Mhm.
kind of relieved I was out of it. But then when I got back in, I gave him a call and I
Right.
said, "Hey, I want you to hear this from me first."
Right.
And he
Right.
said, "Well, I mean, first of all, you're like in your 30s, like do whatever the hell you want." And
Right.
then, I mean, come on. He's
When?
like, what am I gonna say? You're not 18. And
Right.
he said, there's actually, I think, less of a stigma. And then he started, naming off people that had gone from like mainstream to porn, like Maitland Ward. He's like, "Well,
Mhm.
she did it." And I went to school for music and singing, and I've done a lot of performing. So he was like, "Maybe it'll
Mhm.
help your singing." Like it was just such a sweet
Aw.
like thing. So I feel very fortunate. He doesn't get details, of course, but I'll say,
Right.
"Oh, I got an agent," or, "Oh, I did a lot of traveling to Florida for shooting
Mm.
and stuff." And I don't get any like really
Mhm.
nasty pushback about it.
Mhm.
So that's really nice. My mom is not happy at
Yeah.
all. So we went no contact a while back, like probably probably 6 years ago or so, just
Yeah.
because of what I do for a living, which was heartbreaking.
Oh, yes.
And she just didn't understand, couldn't put together that this was the daughter she raised. And then I'm doing
Right.
this horrible thing. She couldn't think, well, maybe the thing isn't as horrible. She just went, oh, it's not the daughter that I thought I knew. And so
Yeah.
that cognitive dissonance just exploded our relationship, unfortunately. So that's a big
Yes.
part of why I like to do my part in kind of demystifying and humanizing the industry so that I can reach
Yes.
other parents, even if I can't kind of change her mind, you know?
Yes.
So,
I love it. I love it so much. Um, what's so amazing is that there are people like you out there, and that's
hmm,
why I wanted so much to bring education and awareness to this channel and spread it to everyone else, because I mean there are parents out there that are like, well, my kid's going into this and I got to drop them. I'm just not going to support them. I'm going to cast them out. Well, if
yeah.
people actually knew that it was a safe place and we educated people more, I feel like more people would be welcoming whenever it comes
Right.
to either them or their kids getting into the industry or just a friend. Because I mean, people are really fearful of things that they don't know.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's one of those things where a lot of the educating them would help so much.
Yeah, and
Okay,
I think
so
it's just a different oh, sorry. I didn't
no,
mean to
go ahead.
interrupt.
No, go
I was
ahead.
just saying that I think it's just a generational thing of feminism and why I think there just isn't room for the idea that it could be empowering in any way in that
Yes.
generation. Typically, I think it's just no matter what, you're a victim, no matter what, this is
Yes.
a degrading environment.
Hmm.
As you probably know as well, I've never felt more empowered in my life. She raised me to be confident and sure of myself
Yes.
and know that I could do anything. And I'm privileged enough that I could do other things. I'm not, a
Right.
survival sex worker, but I have chosen this. And
Hmm.
it's
Right.
been the most fulfilling thing I've done with my life. So it fills me with purpose to try and spread that.
Yes, 100%. And
Hmm.
that's fucking beautiful.
Thanks. I'm
So
glad you're on the same page too. It's really exciting that there are more of us.
yes, and it's always amazing to speak to someone that's like that, because um it makes you kind of appreciate, I guess, even your own opinion and your own views more, because there are so many people out there that just completely conflict with them, especially if you're in the southern part of the United States.
I
It's
bet.
like it's so rough. They're like completely against anything sex work, anything that has to do with women. And the majority of the people that I have talked to in sex work find it empowering. They find it liberating. They're just,
Mhm.
it's something positive that adds to their life. It's not something that's negative and takes from their life. So
Right.
I really enjoy your story too.
Thanks.
Empowering. We need to empower everyone.
Yeah, and it's not for everyone, and it's not how a
Hmm.
lot of people want to express their sexuality. Maybe they want it to be just expressed with one person in marriage in a monogamous relationship, and
Right.
I support that
Right.
completely. That's totally fine if that's your choice, and this is
Right.
obviously just made for adults, you know?
Oh,
So,
yes.
like, if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to watch it. Like, have the parental controls on on your children's things too, so they're not
Oh, yes.
exposed to it.
Oh, yes.
But if I choose to do it with my body and I enjoy it and there is a huge demand for it and people want to pay for it, then I just don't see how it's wrong unless you have like an inherent kind of, I don't know, moral or religious
Mhm.
um, opposition to it, which is fine for your own life. And I definitely support that.
Right.
But yeah,
Yes. It's one of those, it should be your choice and you shouldn't be making someone else's choice for them kind of
absolutely.
situations.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So, my next question goes to whenever you were developing as a child, a teenager, even in your early adulthood before you went into porn, was there at any point that you were abused, either mentally, sexually, or physically by anyone?
No, nothing. I am so fortunate. I know that there are plenty of people who have gone through really tough things in every industry,
Yes.
by the way. But
Yes.
personally, I had a really lovely upbringing where I had everything that I needed, not necessarily everything I
Mhm.
wanted. I wasn't
Right.
spoiled, but but I had a very loving family, a very encouraging environment.
Mhm.
I never had any like sexual trauma or abuse in my upbringing at all. I guess there were like moments where I was bullied or,
Right. Right.
or boys were pushy when I would date, like things that I feel like a lot
Mm.
of us around my age dealt with because there weren't those discussions around consent.
Oh,
But it
yes.
was everyone dealt with that. There was nothing that was, some horrible moment that now I have this issue and so I'm turning to this line of work. That
Right.
I'm just hypersexual and I'm really comfortable in my sexuality, and
Hmm.
it's a thrill and an adrenaline rush for me to express that in a safe way, and then for everyone to see it, that's pretty hot too.
Yes, and you get paid to do it.
Yes, it's
Like
fantastic.
your time is compensated for just loving yourself.
For doing something that I would want to do
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's amazing.
Yep.
So, whenever you were a child, what aspirations did you have? What did you want to be when you got older?
Well, the first thing I ever wanted to be was a mermaid. I was very passionate about this. I
Yes.
was so jealous of Ariel's voice. I wanted to be
Mhm.
her. I wanted to sing like her. Um, I remember my dad telling me that I could actually be a mermaid, and I got really excited. And
Yeah.
he said, "Yeah, you can go to SeaWorld and they have, mermaids as a job." And I said, "No, not. I wanted to be a real one." And so
Yeah.
he crushed my dreams. Um, but seriously, when I like got into elementary school, even that was when I knew that I wanted to sing. So that has been
Mhm.
my passion. It's what I majored in college. It's what I've done outside of this forever. So that was
Mhm.
always what I wanted to do. And it's just another aspect of performing, right? I
Right.
just love
Yes.
being able to affect somebody else's emotional state and reach them that way. And so it does
Yes.
kind of go parallel to this in a weird way. I
Mhm.
wasn't very open about it in the industry when I was in before because it was too close to me, too close to my identity.
Right.
And now this time on like TikTok and things, I've been really open about, hey, this is also my passion. It's something that I do
Right.
professionally as well. So you guys can, I
Yes.
guess, hear it too. Please don't be too mean, which they haven't been. It's been great.
Good. I'm glad. I'm also super glad that you're literally getting to do so many things that you love, and it's not like one aspect of your life just completely defines you and overpowers the rest of your life. Like you have a really good balance.
I try to. Yeah, I try to, definitely. I think that's important. That work-life balance part is really critical, and I think it's hard when you work 40
Yes.
hours a week at a job that you hate.
Yes, 100%.
Mm.
100%. Okay, so next, how has sex work helped you grow as a person?
I would say it's really helped my confidence.
Mhm.
Um, I also I'm a really organized person, and that's
Mhm.
gotten stronger and stronger as I've gotten older, so this has kind of
Right.
reinforced that aspect of me. Um, I would say that I am probably more compassionate toward
Mhm.
people's interests, especially sexually.
Right.
There was definitely a time where I was more judgmental, and if someone said they were into something I wasn't into, I would probably have judged them. And now I just say
Right.
maybe that's not for me, but if you want to poop on people, that's on you. Like you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yes.
that. So I think
Yes.
it's made me a little more patient. I think it's also um, yeah, just helped me and my confidence, I guess, through the
Mhm.
years too.
Very nice. That's always something that is amazing because with your confidence and it empowering you, it makes you look forward to work. It makes you look forward to
Yeah,
be able to experience those things. It's like
definitely.
a venting and more like something that you love doing instead of this chore that you're like nobody really wants to watch somebody that looks like a chore in that kind of work.
Right, right, where you're just like, "I'm here to pay my rent," and I've
Yeah.
run into I've run into girls that are like, "Oh, I'm just here because I need the money, my parents can't find out," and they're it's almost like a desperation to it, and I just wanna, like, take them in and say, like, "Baby, this isn't for you." Like,
Right.
there's too many social ramifications, there are too many ugly things around that if you're not actually
Oh,
passionate
yes.
about it or if you don't enjoy it, at least in some way.
Right. Because at that point, it sounds like they wouldn't even respect it. And that leads to some pretty risky situations.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay. So my next question is going to be, How do you feel about different kinds of kinks? Do you have any different kinks? And do you have hard limits?
I love the kink conversation. I was hoping we'd get into it because I know you're really heavy into the BDSM side of
Yes,
stuff.
it's my favorite.
I know I love, oh, I could talk about kinks all day. I I'm into like some kind of like edgier stuff that I can't really do on camera, or because of credit card companies, I can't really shoot
Oh,
as much.
yes. Oh,
You know,
yes.
like some of the like more intense breath play or
Mhm.
like knife play or like those kind of things or
Right.
like sleeping stuff. Like I'm really into the
Mhm.
like pretend to be asleep or kind of out of
Yeah.
it. And they've almost completely scrubbed that from most of the stuff because
Oh,
of consent
yes.
issues, which
Oh,
I
yes.
understand, you know. Um, what was the first part of your question? Something about.
Do you have abnormal kinks, or how do you feel about abnormal kinks?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So those are my kind of more abnormal ones. I think my main ones are objectification. Like I love to
Mhm.
be objectified in obviously a consensual environment.
Right. Right.
Um, but I like that. I like just being like a set of holes for use. Like I'm just this
Mhm.
body that's being used. Like
Yes.
multiple men or like gangbangs are a huge kink of mine.
Mhm.
Um, and then when people have uh, kind of more out of the box fetishes. I love it. I love it,
Mhm.
love it, love it. The weirder, the better. And I have
Mhm.
just, experienced or heard of like the wildest things that, that people
Mhm.
have contacted sex workers about doing custom video. I'm sure you know
Oh, yes.
of,
Uh,
there's people with like Q-tip fetishes or you have to eat a grilled cheese and put a pencil in your mouth for a while. Like that was one of the ones I heard about. Just, it's
I had this
fascinating to
one,
me.
it was
Mm.
like they wanted to know how many pieces of cheese that I could eat in a time frame. So I had 5 minutes to eat as many pieces of cheese as I could, and I'm gonna tell you, I did not eat cheese for a month after that. I
What
was like,
kind of cheese?
"Oh, Kraft sliced cheese."
Oh,
He
I
liked to
wonder if
hear
he's
the
like the cheese guy.
I don't know, but he liked to hear it being unwrapped, and then I would have
Mhm.
to put it in my mouth without folding it. So,
Without folding it. I love
yeah.
this. There was a guy probably 10 to 12 years ago that was like infamously known as the cheese guy. And it would be those
Mhm,
craft singles, but they would put them over their like naked body and he would take girls into private and you had to have the
mhm,
craft singles. It couldn't be any other kind of cheese. So now I'm
mhm.
like, is this another person with like a similar but not the
Right.
same fetish? Or like, how many of them are there? And I think it's a
Yes.
beautiful fucking thing that these things that you cannot search on Pornhub, but you
Yeah.
can find someone that's willing to indulge you in this fetish. No one's
Mhm.
being harmed. They're getting exactly what they need to get off.
Yes.
And who knows where this shit comes from? I can't tell you where my
Yeah.
bondage stuff comes from. I just
Right.
watched movies when I was a kid, and if the girl got tied up or the princess was captured, I wanted to be
Mhm.
her. But it didn't
Right.
come from any trauma or anything. It
Right.
just is in there. So
Right.
I can't judge them, you know?
Yes. My biggest thing is as long as it's a consensual environment, it's safe, then if they're not like approaching you, forcing something on you, why would you care anyway? Like I don't understand
Right.
why people are so harsh.
Yeah, and my thing is it's all adults, no kids, no animals. Like
Yes.
so it's like full consent and
Yes.
that's obviously the difference between something that's BDSM and positive and a criminal act is the consent. It can be the same
Yes.
actions, you know?
Mhm.
But that's where that line is and it's a really hard line and I think people don't understand that sometimes.
Yes. So I find people often don't even know what soft and hard limits are, and they claim that they are
Mm,
in the BDSM community. And I'm like, can you please do a little bit of research? Because, like,
yeah,
if you have access to Google, then I mean, you at least can find definitions of stuff. But
for sure.
I just feel like not enough people, or if they think if they have to search it that they should already know it, and then if they have to search it then they're dumb or something. That's not the case. Like you should always want to educate yourself. Always.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
better you are educated and the more knowledge you have, the more power you have. Like that's how I see it.
Definitely, and especially coming into it as a submissive or as, like, a younger female submissive, I got really lucky that I found a partner who was not predatory, but
Yes.
because that sub frenzy I felt, I wanted to try everything. I didn't care who tied me
Mhm.
up, I didn't care who hit me with stuff, I just wanted that adrenaline rush so
Yes.
badly and that release so badly, So I feel really fortunate that I got in with a good group of people and with a good partner. But there
Yeah.
are a lot of predators in that space. And so educating yourself and surrounding yourself with a community of
Yes.
other women, honestly, I think is really important.
Yes, 100%. I completely agree. So whenever I know we talked a little bit earlier about being on set and kind of your routine a little bit. So whenever you're looking to work with someone, are there safety measures that you take? Is there anything that is particular, like some way you research someone to see if you want to work with them, the companies?
Well, my agent vets companies for me, and
Hmm.
I was a little bit concerned about that starting out because I just had never, when I was in the industry before, I didn't
Hmm.
have an agent. I worked independently. And so I had only worked with a couple of companies, but they were large enough companies where I felt comfortable just showing
Okay.
up, is that it was kink.com, it was Bang Bros, Brazzers, things like that, where, they have a big name. So I didn't have to worry about it. Feeling like it was just guy with camera in a hotel room that you didn't
Right.
know. So
Oh, yes.
I was careful then. And then with this agency, I was very clear about the fact that I only wanted to go on bookings where they had a reputable website that went out to a lot of
Mhm.
people because I'd like to double dip. Yes, I get paid
Oh,
for that
yes.
day. But once it goes out to everybody, then ideally a lot of people would search me and then subscribe to my
Oh, yes.
OnlyFans. So also I just wanted a lot of people to see it because I'm into that.
Right.
But
Right.
I that was really kind of the only way. The other thing that I've done is that when people approach me directly, I'll ask
Mhm.
for model references. If and I'll of course look at social media and things too.
Right.
But I keep hearing things about the independent collabing world where, it's a guy with a ton of followers, but maybe he
Yeah.
has had some problems in the past. And I am a little bit concerned now going more into the collab world, which I wasn't really as much before because of a relationship. Now I'm kind of more hyper aware of being really careful with testing because that of
Yes.
course affects my paid bookings and my health and my coworkers' health. And then
Yes.
also ideally having model references or seeing that these people work in a pro capacity as well, because I feel
Right.
like at least there's some oversight with
Hmm.
that with the testing system that just doesn't really exist in the independent world.
Yes, 100%. I remember back whenever I started doing bookings and I had someone apply for the position that I had open, and the craziest thing, well, I thought it was the craziest thing. They literally were offended, like they were scoffing at the idea of being tested. And I'm like,
Oh
what what do you mean? Like, why are you having this reaction? And they're like,
yeah,
well, I'm clean. You know I'm clean. And I'm like, I
no,
need
I don't.
paperwork. I need paperwork saying you're clean.
Yeah. This
Like,
actually, like a coworker of mine ran into this recently where there was a guy with a lot of followers and he
uh,
was like mocking the idea of testing, which is insane to me. It's the very base level of
yeah.
safety. And that also, like when I was single the last time, I did some dating outside of the industry and I got
Mhm.
slut shamed twice in a row for wanting to use protection, use condoms. I was like, "Well, you should just trust me." And I said, "Well, if you're pushing with me, you're pushing with everyone, and that means I
Yeah.
absolutely should not trust you." So, the testing thing is so important to me, and
Yes.
it's like the one thing kind of holding everything together so we can all play safe and have these really exciting experiences. I'm so sorry you went through that.
Yes.
That's maddening.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't understand why it's asking so much. It's for your safety, for my safety, for
Yep,
everybody's around us's
yep.
safety. Like, it's one of those things that seems pretty simple. It's like an oil change. Like you need it regularly.
Yeah, so you can
And
take the dipstick, right?
yeah, yeah.
We're gonna go with that analogy.
Love it. And um again, I was going to talk to you about the work-life balance. I know we touched it earlier in the conversation.
Mhm.
With your work-life balance, is there anything that you kind of use to help keep you on track? Like, do you use reminders? Do you have time that's set aside just for you so you can have time to yourself? Like, what do you do for that balance?
It's a little bit tough because all of this is so immersive and it's everywhere, right? You have
Oh, yes.
notifications here, social media, OnlyFans messages. It is really hard to kind of pull away from it for any amount of time because
Mhm.
consistency is key, right? You have to show up every day or you're
Mhm.
not going to do well, pretty
Oh,
much, you
yes.
know? Um,
Yes.
so I take time for the gym. I try and make sure that I have a lot of contact with my friends, especially those like outside of the industry. So I'm still, you know, I'm not completely enveloped in this all of the time, but it's hard.
Right.
I will say the hardest part for me is like getting off of my phone because it's
Mhm.
just there and it is constant updates. It's
Oh,
constant
yes.
like instant gratification over
Yes.
many platforms. And so there's a part of me that's like, maybe I should do the thing where I get a work phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about that a lot lately because now all of my focus is on this career. And as exciting
Mhm.
as that is, it also is like, hey girl, like I did 11 shoots in like maybe 13 or 14 days with this last trip to Vegas and Florida.
Mhm.
And I just, it'll wipe you out,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
and mess with your pH too, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
another
Oh,
point.
yes. Oh,
Um,
yes.
so I did, you know, I needed a couple of days to just decompress and to not feel
Right.
like my sexuality was so performative. I like have my own time with my Hitachi that's
Mhm.
just for me, and my sexuality is
Right.
just for me. That really helps in kind of a self-care
Yes.
resetting way, I think.
Yes. 100%. And that's so important too because you need to love yourself first.
Oh
Like
yeah.
a lot of people neglect themselves and they think, "Oh, well, I just need to work all the time and that's going to make me happy." Well, it'll make you happy for a time and
Yeah.
then it'll be one of those things that if you're neglecting yourself, it's going to pile up until something has to give.
Right, and then you have one bad day or one bad shoot, and then you tank, you know, because there are gonna be those
Yes.
days where it's not as pleasant as the other. I mean, there are some shoots where I walk away, like I skip away because I'm like the happiest I've ever been, and
Yeah.
there are other days where I'm like, "Cool, I did my job and I feel good about it, but
Right.
I'm fucking exhausted." And so
Oh,
if
yes.
you don't have enough in your tank when you're doing that, then that will you'll just crash and burn, you'll burn out.
Oh, yes. And then, like we were talking about longevity in the beginning, it'll be one of those
Mhm.
things where you just don't stay in the industry as long.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a two-part question. What is the best part about your job, and what is the worst part about your job?
I actually just answered this on TikTok, like right before we got on. So this is perfect timing, at least the best part. I was like, I'm made up. I might as well do a TikTok real quick. So I would say the best part is a two-parter actually,
Mhm.
because it's the fact that everyone's watching. Like that's the best
Mhm.
part of it for me is that it's
Right.
being put out to everybody. All of these people are watching me and pleasuring themselves, or you know what
Mhm.
I mean. I love
Right.
that. And then the other part is just the community. I
Mhm.
especially noticed when I got out of the industry and I went into real estate, which was a very kind of buttoned up,
Oh, yes.
very like strangely religious. I was in Washington State at the time. I'm not sure why it was so religious, but
Yeah.
there were a lot of, you know, suddenly my social media was all just like Bible quotes. And I was like, oh, I wasn't
Mhm.
expecting this. And so I felt
Right.
like I couldn't truly be myself. And I was
Mhm.
holding like a part of myself back the entire time. So getting back in the community and being around people that I can talk about sexuality with, that I can not hold any part of myself back with, that has
Right.
been really fulfilling and just a
Mhm.
huge part that I missed. So those two things I think would probably be the best parts. Um, the worst part is, I mean, it's just a running through line through the 12 years has just
Mhm.
been, like losing the relationship with my mom. I think
Mhm.
the stigma against the industry, um, and it pops up in such frustrating ways. Like, obviously that's
Yes.
the biggest way, but, I had to kinda have to be careful about what men I tell, because the
Right.
second that they know me as that, then I am nothing more. I am, you know,
Yes. Oh
I'm
my
not
goodness,
seen as
yes.
anything other than this like conquest or sexual object.
Yes.
And so those I think are probably the most frustrating parts of it.
Yes.
You know, but overall, there are downsides to everything, and I think people the general public assumes that most of this is a downside. Um,
Mhm.
but if it if it was really terrible, I wouldn't do it. Like I wouldn't have come
Well,
back to it. I was doing great in real estate. Why would
yeah.
I come back if I didn't love it?
And when it comes to things like that, there are certain reasons people are going to count you as like a notch anyway. You know,
Sure,
maybe
whatever.
it
Just
was,
being female, whatever.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it was just, you were the prettiest person that they were around at work and they were like, oh, well, let's see who can get that one kind of deal.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
Yeah.
just because you're a woman, they're going to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, with the industry itself, is there anything that you've kind of regretted at any point?
Um, Leaving.
Mm,
100%, that is the one thing that I do regret. I don't have a lot of regrets in general, but I had gotten into a relationship where he knew what I did.
mhm,
And he never asked me to leave. He never said anything like that, but I could tell that the discomfort increased over time. And I was so
yeah,
desperate to have him that I did less and less and less until I had convinced myself that I should probably retire, that it was probably the best time anyway. I was kind of burnt out.
right,
Fine. I wanted to try something else.
right.
So I wish I had been stronger in myself, in what I
Yes,
knew that I loved, and I hadn't compromised so much that I felt like my shine was kind of dulled for
yeah,
that pretty much that entire time. So I regret that. There's nothing in the industry where I made a decision and I shouldn't have made that decision that I feel
mm,
like.
right.
So I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that I had, and all the people that I met, especially the women. It's just
Yeah,
been such a
yes,
wonderful community. It really has.
100%. I'm so glad that you've had such a positive experience. It's making me I guess super excited because you could be a role model for so many
Oh,
women that want to be able to express themselves. And I know that it's going to be kind of hard for you in your relationships with some people, like you and your mother.
yeah.
A lot of people are going to have someone like that in their life that they want so much to be close to, but this affects them negatively. So you're saying, I want to love myself and give to myself. I know that other people don't approve, but I believe in and I love myself and I just want that to shine. So I think that is very empowering to other women in similar situations.
Oh,
So
I
I
would
want to
hope so.
say,
I just got chills. Thank you. That would be what I would like my legacy to be, in some way,
yeah,
of just, yes, you do give up things for this, but maybe it's not necessarily about how evil something is or how bad you are as a person. It might just be
yeah,
other people's perspectives. Yeah,
yes.
that's nice. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk to you about is the biggest lessons that you've learned from sex work itself.
Use lots of lube, I think would be if I had one, well,
Bring multiple
um,
bottles just in case.
more little bottles. Silicone lube and silicone toys are a bad combo. Um, gosh, the biggest lessons. Um, I mean, I just, it's probably just really super important to only do the parts that you enjoy. It doesn't
Mhm,
need to be that you absolutely love every single thing every single day, but it
right,
will tear you down if you are miserable. And so, I
right,
mean, ideally you're in a situation where, it's not a desperation for money thing where, of course you do need to do a little more things that are outside of your
right.
comfort zone, but if it's at all possible to cater to the things that actually bring you joy, um, that's what I would recommend.
Mhm.
Because then you actually really do love your life.
Yes, 100%. Just like with your evolution, kind of you started more in the kink and then you moved from kink up to the more what some people consider vanilla kind of work where you're
Mhm.
doing less kink and your evolution is beautiful. Like you're loving the journey the entire time. You enjoyed both. Not everybody's going to do that, but
Yeah,
like if you start on one end of the spectrum and you don't really like it, you could always go to the other. Like you're not limited. It's not one of those, I can only
right.
be in this side, and you're living proof of that. Like you can literally transition from one to the other and do it gracefully, beautifully. And it's one of those, like you were talking about earlier, it's not for everyone, but it doesn't mean that just one aspect is the only thing you have to try. whenever you're getting in it
Right.
too. Yeah.
And I love all of the things that I'm doing. It's nice because
Mhm.
Kink has ramped up their production again. So I just shot for them again, like one
Mhm.
of my like favorite directors. And so that's going to be coming out soon. But what's funny is that so many people back then knew me as this kind of extreme kink person, which I still
Mhm.
am, honestly. And then getting back in, a lot of the things that I, was booked for, were these kind of stepmom,
Right.
more like incest fantasy things, which I also enjoy. But I remember I had done a bunch of the like the stepmom scenes, and
Mhm.
I got a comment. I don't get a lot of troll comments, so like it's funny that like these are like the two that I remember. Is the one
Right.
from earlier
Right.
about the death bit. I only get a few, but someone said, "Oh, you've gone soft on us." Like and I was like, no, this is just another aspect to me. I still love this other stuff. I'm still
Yes.
doing as much of that as I'm able to, and that I'll get booked for.
Right.
But I do, I just did like a Star Wars VR cosplay.
I seen
Like,
it. I seen it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
it's so
Go
fun.
check Twitter.
It was so much fun, but it's like that's not it's so multifaceted and you can do so many
Mhm.
different things. And yeah, there are some things that I'm not comfortable doing that I won't do, but in
Right.
everything that I am doing, I'm enjoying. And so, if it's not for you personally, then I don't know, scroll past that video, but then I'll be doing other things.
Yes. Right. Right.
you know?
100%. And it's one of those things that's one of the I guess one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to the kink industry, like if you do some of the harder work and then you try to do some of the softer work or maybe leaning
Yeah.
to a little bit of vanilla, they're like, "Oh, well, you're soft now." Or "What's wrong with you? You lost your edge." No,
Yeah.
like being a well-rounded individual is a great thing. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
will say my best days are always with the kink stuff. Like that, I
Yes.
mean, that is just a next level experience for me.
Mhm.
But I still love sex. I still enjoy
Oh,
that
yes.
connection with people. So
Yeah.
I'm not having a bad day. Just,
Right.
I'm doing just fine.
Right.
Right.
It's all good.
Mm.
It's all good. Just some
Yeah.
moments are a little better.
That's all I'm saying is some of them I end up like high from the pain and and the
Mhm.
experience itself. I can definitely get that. Or, I just get fucked really well. So,
Yes, it's a win-win.
not
It's
losing.
a
I'm not
win-win.
losing. Yeah.
Um, so, I know I didn't have a I told you that was gonna be my last question, but I have one more.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so, um, I know a lot of people think that all adult work is just kind of being there and just filming what's happening. So, whenever you have a script that you have to go by, how does that kind of help guide you into what you need to be doing, but also help you with like angles and things of that nature when it comes to these tighter spots, like you were talking about earlier when you couldn't really move?
So, I think a lot of people think you just show up and then you just have sex and you go home or something. And
Yeah.
it's usually it can be like 4 to 12 hour days,
Hmm.
and it's paperwork and it's consent on video. They do a lot of
Hmm.
that. It's wardrobe, it's dialogue. A lot of the scripts are just outlines, kind of like vague
Hmm.
outlines of like, here's some, this is where we want it to go. Here are some
Right.
pictures of like what the company wants of specific angles and shots. So
Hmm.
all of that, I'm surprised at how much I've really enjoyed that, the
Yeah.
dialogue parts and the improv, like that's been really fun.
Yeah.
This parts I usually skip over when I watch porn. I'm like, I don't care about the scene, but I love doing it. It's really fun to play with the acting part of it. I really enjoy that. So
Hmm.
that is something that takes hours and hours to do each
Oh,
scene, to
yes.
do all the cut scenes, to do it, to try and remember what you said because they need a shot wide, they need a shot focusing on your face, and then they need a whole
Hmm.
time focusing on the other people's face too, or the other person's face. So all of that's a little bit more complicated. And then when it
Right.
comes to the actual sex, there are positions that just look better on camera. So you're doing typically
Hmm.
the same positions, but like what mish or missionary would be in real life is actually, your knee on the ground and then the other one up here, and then your
Hmm.
hips are to the side. And so all of these angles are really specific to the camera and like they need to
Right.
be able to see the action. So you can't move as much. But
Right.
they're usually pretty lax. They'll be like, well, we need 4 or 5 positions. And then that day you're kind of like, okay, okay, we could switch from like reverse here for a while to,
Hmm.
you know, um, doggy, but then we'll switch to this and then we'll go to that. So you have kind of a general outline, just like the script, you have a general outline
Right.
of the sex as well. And some of them, they're just like, you know what, go for it.
Right.
Have fun, kids. If they know that you can do the positions that will look good for the camera.
Right.
And that just takes doing it a bunch of times. Like you don't know
Oh,
until you're
yes.
on set. Coming back into the industry, there were a couple things where I was like, okay, what does look best? Like help me with
Hmm.
this, you know? Yeah, so it's like kind of a fun outline of things with each part, with both the script and with the sex. Sometimes
Hmm.
the script is like word for word, and
Right.
you're getting it that morning. You're just like,
Yes.
ah, that's a little bit more pressure, which I don't love, but it does give me a chance to like stretch that part of my performing too, and not
Mhm.
just the sex part.
Talented, intelligent, gorgeous. Like you're checking all the boxes, all
Oh,
of
you're so sweet. Thanks.
them.
Thanks. Just having a good time.
You're very welcome. And Sophia, I do want to say thank you so much for again being here. I don't want to keep you too late, but everybody needs to go follow her on Twitter because she's more than amazing. And of course, there's contact information if you're a company and you want to do some hiring because she's always open to that too. We like money.
Absolutely. If you are a company and you want to contact me, please go through 101 modeling and
Yes.
they will make sure that they do all the vetting and stuff like that. I don't have any like direct
Yes.
contact for business
Oh,
inquiries.
no. Correct. And also in her bio, it actually is linked to the modeling agency that she's going with. So you can literally just follow that and get right on over there.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
make it easy.
yes, thank you so much for coming on Forbidden Depths today and helping with the education process and just spreading awareness and love.
Oh,
I
I
love it.
appreciate it. You're just a delight. So thank you for having such thoughtful questions and really, I feel like we're on like the same side in this industry and that's really powerful. So thanks for getting that message out.
Yes. And I always appreciate someone that's like-minded and loving and giving because we just need more of that, especially in the community, because it's hard enough on the outside of the community, but you find people like that within it too. So I'm always extremely happy when I get to meet someone that's amazing.
Same. So thanks.
But I will go ahead and let you get back to the rest of your night. Thank you guys for joining us for Forbidden Depths, and we'll see you next time. Bye.